hello there, and welcome to Real Reviews. My name is Jameson Rabbit, and the man seated next to me, well, his favorite word is gazebo.
You just learned this about me a little while ago.
It's a real fact, folks.
It is a real fact. At first I lied. I said it was automatopoeia, but it's not.
That's just fun to say.
It is fun to say. It's got a lot of syllables. But gazebo, I mean, not only is it a great fixture to your lawn, but it just sounds great.
It is pleasing to the ear.
It is gazebo.
Very nice. That raises my the hairs on my neck.
It's beautiful.
Very nice. This week we have two movies to talk about on the marquee. One of them is a big old monster of a movie. But first, I'm going to talk about a movie called A United Kingdom from director Ama Asante. It stars David Oyelowo as a guy named Kama, and he is a prince of what will become Botswana, and he has come to Britain for schooling, and as he is waiting for his uncle to pass the throne down to him, and he falls in love with a white English lady who is not royalty. She is a typist.
Oh,
there's a lot of problems with this in 1943, I believe this is. And this does not please his uncle, the king. This does not please her family, that she is marrying a black man. This does not please his people, who do not want to have a queen who is not one of them.
I've seen Coming to America.
Yeah, right, exactly, with the queens. And oddly enough, it does not please the British government, because at this time, apartheid is just being instituted into South Africa, and there are two very different classes of people because of apartheid, and the British government sees this as an opportunity to take over control of Botswana and the resources, the gold and diamonds that are within, because they can't pass on the rightful heir to the throne to this man, so we might as well just become the heir to the throne for you. And it's this whole drama about race and class and the will of the people and the, pardon me, and eventually he gets banished from his land for life, where he is not allowed back into the land that he is supposed to rule. This is all a true story. And through it all, his wife, played by Rosamund Pike, stands by him and suffers along with him, and he is given every opportunity to just walk away from her, and you can be the king again. You can have control of all this land. We'll find you a nice queen. And he fought through it, and he fought through for years and years and years. He fought against Winston Churchill. Winston Churchill made a promise as he was trying to become prime minister for the first time, because this was an international thing. And he said, I'll tell you what, one of the things he said was, if I become prime minister, I will not separate a man from his wife. I will put him back in power. Winston Churchill wins the election. He says, you're banned for life.
What a jerk.
Yeah, kind of talking out both sides of his mouth like a politician might. And through it all, they fought and fought until, I mean, after decades, he was given his country back through some finagling. There's some real dirtbags in this movie that playing the British soldiers. Thomas Felton, better known as Draco Malfoy in the Harry Potter movies. He
plays a really good...
yeah, he's really good in this one. Almost unrecognizable, too. Yeah. Real dirtbag. And it's an interesting movie. The problem is it feels, after having just seen Loving a few months ago, that was a very familiar story and kind of similar to this one. Didn't have the power struggle in it, but kind of similar. And I love David Oyelowo. I think he's really good.
Yeah, he is.
Rosamund Pike was kind of just played everything the same. She was basically just weepy-eyed through the entire movie. She basically just stood there weepy-eyed, like, what's happening? What's going? I want my husband back. I would have liked to see a little more out of her. Of course, anytime you're dealing with anything that is a ripped from the headlines type story, a lot of spinning newspapers telling you what's going on.
Yep.
I hate that so much. I really hate spinning newspapers so much.
It's a cliche. They used that a lot in the 80s. I haven't seen it very much lately, but...
They brought it back.
Wow.
Yeah, so that, I mean, that just, it feels lazy to me. But the movie itself and the story itself is actually really interesting and pretty well done. All in all, I give it 3 out of 5 stars.
Yeah. It looked really interesting. I was hoping this would be more of a major release.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
Not so much.
Yeah.
Speaking of major releases, what have you got, sir?
Oh, well, our one big movie that we have on the marquee is Kong, Skull Island. Directed by Jordan Vogt Roberts. We have a retelling of the King Kong story. They go back to Skull Island, a bunch of scientists. They are looking for pretty much a top secret thing. They have an idea what they're looking for, but they can't tell anybody else. Otherwise, people will think they're crazy and they won't get the funding to go to Skull Island to find a large creature. They get the military backing. What they need is some military personnel. This is set in 1974, so we just lost Vietnam War, and we have a soldier, Preston Packard, played by Samuel L. Jackson. He kind of needs a comeback story for him.
He never wants to stop fighting wars.
He doesn't want to stop fighting wars, and he doesn't want to end on a note of the last thing I did right before I retired was lost a war.
Yeah.
So he goes along thinking this is going to be his thing that maybe could redeem himself and keep him from retirement, which he doesn't want to do in the first place. Well, just like all the King Kong movies, once you get to Skull Island, it's not just a jaunt on the beach, grab your animal, go back home. It is a bloodbath. Kong, he is the protector of this land. He stomps down the evil creatures that come up from the cavernous caves down below, and we have a bunch of people getting scattered all over the place. You find John C. Reilly, who plays Hank Marlowe. He is a guy who crashed his plane back in World War II. He doesn't even know how that war ended up. I like his line when he comes out. He's like, "Did we win the war?" And well, which one? And it gives you everything you really expect from a movie that takes primarily, well, actually, the whole thing takes place on Skull Island. Unlike the other King Kong movies, which is more of about a love triangle between the lead female character and King Kong, and then usually kind of an actor that's pushed aside but is her second. This is not this movie.
No, not at all.
This movie is about a soldier trying to redeem himself, a scientist trying to find the next big thing in weaponry.
And it's about how man likes to just kill whatever doesn't understand.
Yep.
I mean, because that's just what we do. Destroy it. I don't know what it is.
Yeah. What did you think?
I thought the movie was beautiful.
Yeah.
I thought there were some really beautiful shots in this movie. The first big reveal of Kong as they're coming in, and suddenly this gorilla that blocks out the sun comes rising out. I thought that was great. I thought that whole sequence of the first big fight pulled no punches.
No.
It was great. I really liked a lot of this cast. I like Brie Larson as the photographer that's along. Tom Hiddleston as the lead tracker. I thought he was a really cool character. I love John Goodman as the scientist who's trying to get funding for this, along with Corey Hawkins as his partner. You mentioned John C. Reilly was great.
Hilarious.
He offered great moments of comedic relief, but also really well-needed exposition to tell you the story of Kong. So he wasn't just the comic relief. He did have a purpose in this movie. Sam Jackson played, like you'd said, a guy who wanted redemption, and I really liked Kong. I liked I liked how what's the word I'm trying to think of? The design, the character design of all of these monsters on the island. You see very early on, Kong has this massive scar across his chest. Now, he's a dozen stories tall. What could have caused this massive scar on his chest? We find out that there's like these lizard-like creatures that are just as badass as he is.
And you could tell that these lizard creatures are, and this is no secret, they are going to pair Kong up with Godzilla eventually. Course. You could tell these creatures that were in these caverns down below was highly inspired by the Godzilla movies. They look like it could have been ripped right out of there. Therefore, you're able to connect them eventually.
Yeah.
One of the problems I did have with the look of it is the sizing. I felt like King Kong's size kind of fluctuated at times.
Yeah, that's tough to maintain when you're going to make him, 100+ feet tall.
Yeah.
It's really tough when you get into smaller moments with him and using his hand.
And you also have the setup for King Kong. Obviously, he is way too small now to be any threat to Godzilla in the future. They explain that he's still a baby, and his parents were a lot bigger, but when you come up across the parents' skeletons, no, they actually look, and then, yeah, they're skeletons, but they need to be lots bigger in order to be any kind of a challenge for Godzilla.
One of the interesting things, too, is that they did with this that kind of fluctuates between the movies is Kong is upright through this entire movie.
Yeah.
That's not always true in the Kong movies.
True.
Sometimes he is more gorilla than Sasquatch. And I liked, one of the things I really liked about this movie that really caught me off guard was everyone is fair game, it felt like. Like very early on, we're killing key characters that you would expect to be there towards the end. And now it's got me back on my heels going, I don't know who's going to die next. It could be any of these fools because guys I expected to make it aren't making it. I like that moment.
I did feel like Kong was inspired by Caesar from Planet of the Apes. I felt like with the facial expressions and everything else, it's pretty much a lot alike. But you know what? This movie is fantastic.
Yeah.
I love the extra side monsters that they threw in.
Monsters that obviously adapted to their environment.
Yeah.
And blended into their environment.
Do you have a favorite?
The most terrifying to me was that big jungle arachnid thing that's just piercing people through the skull.
And you're just sitting there and you're wondering what is going on, and then once you find out, you're like, oh, I don't like that at all.
I don't like that one bit. My only real drawback with this movie is there's a couple of kind of ridiculous moments, and that's in a movie about a giant monkey. There's a moment in the cemetery there where Kong's parents are, where Tom Hiddleston he's got a sword, and in the midst of all this gas that's going around, and it's super slow-mo, I'm like, all right, this is a little much.
Yeah.
Come on. But all in all, I really enjoyed the movie. I like that it wasn't a carbon copy of the previous Kong movies, that it kind of branched off a little on its own.
Yeah. I do miss the love story. That's the one thing that I love about the King Kong series.
They teased it for a second, but then they pulled back.
Yeah. And I don't think they're going to revisit it
I
at
don't think
all.
you need to.
No, I think it would be a mistake.
Yeah. So ultimately, what did you give Kong Skull Island?
I gave it 4.
Yeah.
I thought it was a decent film. Not my favorite King Kong movie. That's still the 1976 version.
My favorite is the 33 original. Love that movie. I agree with you on this one, though. I gave it 4 stars as well. I was kind of hedging a little closer to 4.5, but good movie. Well worth checking out.
Yes,
definitely. And stay through the credits, as always. Not a real big...
Oh, no.
Oh, no.
I didn't.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, stay through the credits. There's the scene setting up where this is going in the universe. It's not a big surprise to you where this is going.
Well, I want to see
They
it
say it on the
3D
poster.
anyways.
But, yeah, so that's what we have on the marquee this week. Now, since we only had two movies to talk about, we are going to talk about our top 5 favorite island movies. Since this movie takes place predominantly on an island, there's a lot of islands that have a lot of movies that have to do with islands.
Tons of them.
And so when we came up with this, I immediately I got like 10 movies in my mind immediately.
Yeah.
That have to do with islands. Before we get into it, one movie I think is going to be the outlier here that should be on our list and isn't on either of our lists. Let's talk about Jaws for a quick second.
Okay.
Jaws would normally be my number 1. Like I put it at number 1.
Yep.
And you and I had a little discussion off air about it.
Yeah.
And I felt the exact same way you did. Spoiler alert, why is Jaws not on your list?
Yeah, because I mention Jaws almost every time we do a list. It is a fantastic movie. It's one of my favorite movies, and somehow I could weave it into every top 5 list we do, so I'm just going to take it off my list this time. Same thing with Joe versus Volcano.
I feel the exact same way about Jaws. Like, well, it's number 1. And they're like, it seems like Jaws is always on these. I want to do something different. So let's just say Jaws is the honorary number 1.
Yeah.
It's right there.
If you think Jaws could be weaved into any of our top 5,
we've retired Jaws from the list.
Unless we do our favorite shark movie, then I'm just going to have to say it would be silly to. I mean,
Jaws 4, obviously.
there really isn't. Yeah, of course.
Do
Jaws
you have
3D myself.
Do you have any honorable mentions before we jump into this?
Jaws it would be the big one. I could have repeated my King Kongs because I do like the 76 and I do like the 30s version. I think they're beautiful, but again, I just didn't want to rehash a lot of the things that.
Yeah.
What about you?
My honorable mentions. I had Light Between Oceans, movie from last year.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, really depressing movie.
That was an island movie.
It was also from last year. Swiss Army Man.
That was that on an island?
The first half of it was on an island until he rode Daniel Radcliffe like a jet ski to like the Pacific Northwest. And the other Swiss movie, Swiss Family Robinson. We talked about that previously.
About that, yeah.
Enjoyable movie.
It's a good little movie. I like that.
But
I enjoyed the house when I went to Disney.
Let's get into our list, though, with our favorite island movies. Sir, you have a number 5?
My number 5 is White Zombie. It's a 1932 horror film. It's pre-code. It's one of Bela Lugosi's, I think, my favorite movie that he has been in. I think it beats out Dracula. I love the contrast and the lighting and how they set up the sets. The whole movie takes place on Haiti, which, of course, is a large island. We have a man who is interested in this female, and he lures her female, the female that he's interested in, and her fiance to Haiti, saying, hey, you should have your wedding here. He gets a witch doctor to try to get her to stop loving her fiance and love him, but it backfires because the guy who owns this plantation mill is Bela Lugosi. His name is Murder, by the way.
Yeah.
And
heck of a name. Mom loved him.
Great man to trust. His name is Murder. He convinces her to not really care for either one of them, but to go for Mr. Murder.
He's got other plans for her.
It's a very cool movie. It's a kind of a cult classic. I think they did a really good job at, even though Haiti is big, it felt like they were isolated. It felt like there was nowhere to go, and whatever Bela Lugosi did is the rule, because what else are you going to do? You're in Haiti.
Exactly.
Your number 5?
Yeah, my number 5 is a movie that came out in 1964. It's based off a book that I loved when I was a kid, a book by an author, Scott Odell. The movie is Island of the Blue Dolphins. Island of the Blue Dolphins is based on a true story about this young girl, Karana. She's on this island. She lives in a village of 90 people, roughly. It's a small little island. These Russians and these Aleutians show up on the island to hunt otters, and they make a deal with her father, who is the chief, to hunt otters, and and then there's a misunderstanding and a slaughter, and most of her village is killed. Her father, among a lot of the other men on her village, are killed. So they take off in search of help, and she goes to leave the island and quickly realizes that her little brother is not on the boat. She sees her little brother, who's maybe 9 or 10 years old, a kid named Ramo, standing on the island, still waving like, hey, you forgot someone. So she jumps off the boat, goes to be with him, and now she and Ramo are on this island alone. And there's a lot of wild animals, including this wild pack of dogs, which kills her little brother. Oh. And so now it is her. And the movie is her seeking revenge against this pack of dogs and finding ways to build tools. She's going to kill his dogs. She wounds the head of the pack, and then it becomes a story of forgiveness as she wounds it with an arrow, and then she feels sorry for the dog that killed her brother and nurses it back to health, and now it becomes her dog, Rantu, who is a loyal dog. And Rantu saves her life in various ways, and it becomes this great story, and then it's become just a movie of her and Rantu dealing with other animals on the island, and different people stop by the island here and there. Different hunters stop by the island. She hides. It deals with the loneliness of just being there. You're the only person on this island, just you and this dog that killed your brother. It's a really beautiful story. In the movie, look, I saw the movie a long time ago. This movie is impossible to find. I tried to rewatch it this week. Yeah, it's so impossible to find. I watched it when I was young after I read the book and really enjoyed it. It's got George Kennedy in it. I'm sure it's not great rewatching it now, quality-wise, but it's a great story, and I really enjoyed it. So that's my number 5.
I had a movie, it would have been honorable mention, but Lord of the Flies, love the book, but movie, terrible.
Yeah, not so good.
So I couldn't mention that.
Okay. Your number 4, sir.
My number 4 is probably on your list too. Moonrise Kingdom, made in 2012. We have Wes Anderson, who does fantastic, quirky films that just look just beautiful. The story takes place. Sam, he's a little kid, kind of quirky. He kind of likes Susie, who's also pretty much an outsider, and they decide they're going to run away and just kind of be with each other forever. Well, they're stuck on an island, and it's just. People are chasing after these kids because they're just little kids. They have to come back home. You have Edward Norton, who plays this campy woodsman who part of like a Boy Scout leader, and you got Bruce Willis and Bill Murray. It's just a fantastic, quirky, cool film.
Full on Wes Anderson.
Full on Wes Anderson. All takes place on an island. They're not really escaping the island. They're just trying to be different places in the island.
Yeah.
So it's an island story in the sense that they're leaving, but they're really not leaving.
But you pretty much know everyone on the island through this story.
Yeah.
My number 4 is a movie called The Rock from 1996.
Oh,
Sean Connery, Nicolas Cage, Ed Harris. Nicolas Cage is a biochemist. And he and Sean Connery, a former convict who is stationed on Alcatraz, he's sentenced on Alcatraz, have to get back onto the island because Ed Harris is a bad guy, and he is going to launch a chemical attack on San Francisco. So Nick Cage and Sean Connery need to get onto the rock.
This is the ultimate movie. It really is.
It's pretty great. Like, I was torn between this and a couple other Alcatraz movies. Rewatch this one. Like, it's so campy. It's so great.
Oh, yeah.
I love it. It was as Nick Cage was transitioning into crazy Nick Cage from Academy Award winner Nick Cage to I'm just going to start losing it.
I'm going to accept anything you give me, no matter how good it is or bad it is.
And it's really fun. And I love Ed Harris. Ed Harris plays a good bad guy. So.
Sean Connery is also
pretty decent.
And he's crazy, too.
Absolutely. So that's my number 4. What is your number 3, sir?
Number 3, Shutter Island, Martin Scorsese. We got Leonardo DiCaprio plays Teddy Daniels. He believes he is a U.S. Marshal, and he is investigating a murder on this island that happens to have an insane asylum on it. And it's kind of a mystery and trying to figure out what is going on. If you haven't seen it, I don't want to ruin it for you. It is just really cool. It's DiCaprio trying to bust this mystery and trying to kind of leave at the same time. It's weird. It's cool. I was shocked at the end, and I'm not going to tell you the end. So
please don't.
On to your number 3.
All right, my number 3 is a movie that came out in 2010. Its name is Shutter Island. I love Shutter Island, man. I rewatched it this week. The thing that struck me was just how beautiful this movie is.
Yeah.
Robert Richardson, the DP, who has done a lot of work, especially with Tarantino, but has done a ton of big-time movies. There are so many gorgeous shots in this movie of this island. You get a sense of how small this island is. He builds this foreboding sense of doom on this island. DiCaprio's great. Mark Ruffalo's great as his partner.
Yep.
Those two investigating this. Yeah, Ben Kingsley is the crazy doctor on the island. Michelle Williams is wonderful. Max von Sydow is great in this too, as the warden basically. And I mean, it's a great Scorsese Leonardo film.
This would have been a movie that I would have said, yeah, Leonardo should have won Best Actor of the Year award.
Interesting.
He did a great job.
The only movie that, between all the movies that Scorsese and DiCaprio have done, which I believe is 7 now, it's the only one not to get any nominations. Really interesting to me. I don't think people knew what to do with it when it came out. I know it really messed with my head when I first saw it.
Yeah.
And I don't think that people knew where to put this. And I think it kind of got pigeonholed a little bit because of the way it went, that this is more of a horror movie. We don't recognize those. We don't give those awards.
I wouldn't say it's a horror movie at all. I would say a suspense.
The psychological thriller is
yeah.
what it is. And it's a tremendous movie. And that's why it's our number 3 island movies. Your number 2, sir?
My number 2, Battle Royale. It's a Japanese movie directed by Kinji Fukasaku, based on a novel by Kushan Takamai.
My goodness.
Don't correct me. Don't find me and correct me. We have a kind of a classic film of okay, Japan has a problem in the future with their teenagers, so they're trying to kill them off. If you win this this death spree, you get like college and all this other stuff.
Pretty awesome.
Which is great. I don't know why they hate their teenagers so much, but
I got some teenagers.
they get all these teenagers on this island, and you have to battle to survive.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of kids killing kids.
It's a brutal movie.
I know it sounds really terrible, but I love the action in this. I love everything about this movie. It spun off a sequel, not as good, but
we did this for one of our throwbacks.
We did. It is like one of my favorite island movies.
I would say, Dare, it might be one of your second favorite ones.
It would be my second favorite. This one is actually belongs on my list. It would have been there with Jaws. And
all right.
If I put Jaws on there, but I didn't.
Very good. My number 2 is a movie from 2000 from director Robert Zemeckis. It is Castaway. Dare I say the last good movie Robert Zemeckis made. Tom Hanks, of course, is a FedEx guy who gets washed ashore on an island after a plane crash, and it is 99% of the movie is just Tom Hanks passing time, going crazy. And I mean, I think the whole Wilson the volleyball thing is overdone. Like, now that's what people remember it for. The movie is so much more than Wilson. It is watching Tom Hanks really devolve over years, and you start to really see what matters to people. Suddenly, having someone to talk to becomes very important to him. Mm-hmm. There's various things. Just the transformation that he does and the loneliness that he portrays is pretty tremendous.
I love how he keeps that package.
He's pretty great.
Yeah, it is awesome. I rewatched this recently, and I would have put it on my list, but my number 1 is a blockbuster hit, and I did not want to put...
Back-to-back blockbuster?
Yeah, back-to-back. So that's the reason why I didn't put it on my list, but it deserved an honorable mention.
All right. Well, what do you have as your number 1? We are running short on time. What's your number 1?
Number 1, Jurassic Park.
Yes.
You could not have made this outside of an island. You needed the island to keep the monsters in. You needed the island for people to escape. It had a great device where there was only one shuttle boat that was getting off, and these people had to get to it. It's a fantastic movie. It was a blockbuster movie. I know you all seen it. I don't have to tell you to go see it. What is your number 1?
My number 1 is one you mentioned a little bit earlier. That is Moonrise Kingdom. Wes Anderson, these 2 young teens that flee to discover love and to live on their own. Ed Norton is hilarious in this movie. Ed Norton kills me in this movie. Bruce Willis is great as the downtrodden island cop. Bill Murray's great. Tilda Swinton, Jason Schwartzman, they're all just the whole cast that Wes Anderson always puts together. And the island is great because it does feel like I know every character on this island. Everyone knows each other. Mm-hmm. It's its own little world.
They're running away, but they're not running away off the island.
I wouldn't leave
they're
that
just
island.
Going somewhere else.
I'd live on that island forever. Moonrise Kingdom, number 1 favorite island movie for me. Nice list, sir.
Yep.
Jurassic Park, I like it. Let's take a look at what is coming soon the weekend of March 24th. We have 3 movies that will be on the marquee. First one is Chips.
Oh, boy.
Theatrical reimagining of the 1970s sitcom.
That's already here? Oh, boy.
The next one is Life. Ryan Reynolds, Jake Gyllenhaal, they're in space. They may have discovered a symbiote. A Venom type of symbiote.
That one looks very interesting.
It does look interesting. And last but not least, your favorite movie of the year, Power Rangers. Go, Power Rangers. It's finally here.
Yeah, I never watched the...
You know who's in that? Earl from Me, Earl and the Dying Girl.
Really?
And I was going to mention, we were doing Kong Island. The kid from Me and Earl and the Dying Girl, the main boy, he was in Kong Skull Island.
Oh, well, there we go.
He was one of the soldiers.
I still am not excited to see Power Rangers.
Power Rangers. Anyways, before we leave you, of course, we want to thank our sponsor, Marcus Theaters, The Palace. Thank you for sponsoring our show. We do appreciate it. We recommend you go to The Palace to see all of your movie watching needs. If you want to find more from us, you can find us on Facebook. You can find us on Twitter at Real Reviews TV. Like us, follow us, share us, tell your friends and grandmas.
Definitely.
Grandmas love us. We're big with grandmas. I know that for a fact.
In the grandma demographic.
Absolutely. If you want to find more of our past episodes, you can find them at sunprairiemediacenter.com, ksun.tv, or go to YouTube. Real Reviews, KSUN. There's no excuse not to see us.
Yeah, there's harder places not to find us.
Exactly.
Where can't you find us?
Amen, sir. So until next week, we're talking about Beauty and the Beast and the Belko experiment. My name is Jameson.
I'm Mike Roth.
Thanks for watching.